Hello everyone, we're going to begin in about 2 minutes. Please silence your cell phones. Also, to any reporters who are listening in on the live stream, if you would like to request a one-on-one interview with participants in this call, we're going to have representatives from HSI and 3M available to talk about this case. Just email ICE Media and note your request for a one-on-one interview, and those will take place after the conclusion of this press conference. Are you guys okay? Yep. All right, great. We'll begin in about less than 2 minutes. Thank you.
You're good?
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. It is my pleasure to highlight the critically important investigative work done by Homeland Security Investigations to protect consumers from potentially harmful and fraudulent products. Through Operation Stolen Promise, HSI has partnered with the private sector to identify and bring to justice those whose purpose is to profit off the COVID-19 pandemic. This work cannot be done alone. Alongside partners like 3M, we continue to work to keep harmful products out of the stream of commerce and out of consumers' hands. Secretary Mayorkas, it is an honor to have you here today, sir, to recognize this very important work.
Thank you very much, Acting Director Johnson. Let me also, if I may, recognize PJ Lechleitner and Steve Francis. PJ is the Acting Executive Associate Director, and Steve Francis is the Assistant Director of the IPR Center here at ICE. First and foremost, of course, we want to express that our thoughts and prayers are with the people of Texas. The Federal Emergency Management Administration, FEMA, is very active in addressing the storms there. It has supplied 60 generators to hospitals, water facilities, and other operations. It has provided blankets, water, meals for the state to distribute, and of course, our President of the United States has approved an emergency declaration for the state. We trust and hope that people will take the utmost care of themselves, and if they have any questions with respect to what measures they should take, we would ask them and implore them to email ready.gov, look at the site there, and learn what steps can best protect them and their loved ones. I join Acting ICE Director Johnson in pride in announcing today that over the last few weeks, Homeland Security Investigations, the criminal investigative arm of ICE, has seized over 11 million counterfeit N95 respirators intended to be used by frontline healthcare workers throughout the nation. That includes a seizure earlier today with special agents of Homeland Security Investigations, or HSI as it is commonly known, of seizing more than 1 million counterfeit masks as part of an ongoing investigation into a criminal enterprise distributing counterfeit masks throughout the United States. In the past 2 weeks, HSI has conducted multiple criminal search warrants and seized counterfeit masks in operations conducted in 5 states from coast to coast, with more enforcement actions expected in the coming weeks. These seizures illustrate the ongoing efforts of HSI, our partner agency within the Department of Homeland Security, Family, U.S. Customs and Border Protection, and private industry as a partner in keeping our communities and medical staff safe and free from counterfeit products. Thanks to the strong partnership, HSI was able to work quickly on leads provided by 3M, a legitimate mask manufacturer, a household name, to track down the criminals who put the lives of hospital workers and first responders at risk, or who take advantage of our fears to make a quick buck. I must say that we are at a vulnerable time, of course, with the pandemic costing so many lives and causing so much harm, and that criminals exploit our vulnerability for a quick buck is something that we will continue to aggressively pursue. The seizures of these counterfeit surgical masks ensures the health and safety of our frontline healthcare workers who so bravely combat the pandemic by preventing them from receiving inferior personal protective equipment. It also protects the integrity of the American economy. ICE and CBP have been investigating illegal schemes associated with the COVID-19 response, like the illegal import and sale of counterfeit PPE since April of 2020. The mission is dubbed, as Acting Director Johnson referenced, Operation Stolen Promise. Working with CBP, more than 1,800 shipments of mislabeled, fraudulent, unauthorized, or prohibited COVID-19 test kits, personal protective equipment, and other related items have been seized. These actions have kept counterfeit and substandard goods out of the supply chain and out of the hands of the general public and medical professionals, have protected individuals, businesses, and the financial system from fraud, have ensured the integrity of the online marketplace and COVID-19 related websites, and have resulted in violators being held accountable for their criminal efforts and to exploit the pandemic for profit. This is why the men and women of Homeland Security investigations are focused on identifying and dismantling these schemes rapidly and effectively, allowing the public to focus on the health and safety of our loved ones. Since the start of the pandemic, our agents have also been investigating fraudulent coronavirus test kits, counterfeit items, financial scams, and fake medicines. We just implore the public to be aware of websites or individuals selling products claiming to prevent, treat, diagnose, or cure COVID-19. Beware of pharmaceutical product information with grammatical errors or misspellings, some indicia that they do not come from a legitimate business source. And for more information on coronavirus fraud and tips to avoid scams, please visit ice.gov. And to report suspected illicit criminal activity or fraudulent schemes related to the COVID-19 pandemic, email covid19fraud@dhs.gov. Let me again repeat, covid19fraud@dhs.gov. And the last comment I'd like to make is these seizures reflect not only the extraordinary investigative work of HSI personnel, but let us always be mindful of the fact that a seizure is executed at great risk to the men and women who perform it. And I'm honored to be the Secretary of Homeland Security, to work with the brave men and women of our department who are willing to put their lives at risk for the safety and security of the American public. With that, Acting Director Johnson, perhaps we'll field some questions.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. At this time, we'll open it up for questions.
Thank you very much, Josh Gross with CBS News. How are these respirators getting in the hands of first responders and the public? I mean, what where along the line in the procurement, in the hospitals, are people coming in contact with someone selling a fake respirator?
I think it varies, but Steve or PJ, you want to take this?
So I just want to reiterate, so 3M and their authorized dealers have a very secure supply chain. But when people are going outside that supply chain to procure 3M N95 respirators, they're going outside the normal practice, and they're identifying these individuals that are coming into the supply chain and taking advantage of the COVID-19, really the global demand for these 3M masks. We have several ongoing criminal investigations, and we can't get into the details as to the specifics, but we're working very closely with 3M. 3M is providing us information that's enabling us to identify some of these bad actors and these vendors that are distributing these 3M masks.
Luke Barr with ABC News. Two questions. One, where are the masks coming from and how dangerous are they? And then, Mr. Secretary, the Deputy National Security Advisor today talked about SolarWinds. And, the actions will be taken, and she said in a few months. Can you highlight anything for us?
So I'll answer the first part of that question. Our initial criminal investigative findings have identified China as the source of the counterfeit 3M masks. And I'm sorry, Luke, the second part of your question was?
How dangerous are they getting in?
They're extremely dangerous, right? They're providing a false sense of security to our first line responders, to American consumers. So I can't stress how important it is to ensure that we have the legitimate 3M N95 masks that are being deployed to our first responders.
So let me, if I can, address both questions that have been posed. Remember, there are businesses, operations that rely on the supply chain, individuals who might not be able to otherwise receive a particular supply at a particular time will look to alternative avenues to obtain masks, and these criminals exploit those needs and seek to enter the supply chain uninvited to address the needs of particular consumers. In response to your question with respect to how dangerous the masks are, what they do, and I think this was perfectly articulated, is the fact that not only do they give a false sense of security, but how dangerous is the unexposed, how dangerous is the exposed individual? How dangerous is the individual confronting a potential COVID-19 infection without any protective gear? And that's how dangerous they are, because they are of no utility whatsoever. I think with respect to SolarWinds, I'm going to defer to the Deputy National Security Advisor. This is, as the National Security Advisor articulated, Ann Neuberger is on point in coordinating an all-of-government effort to this very serious hack.
Thank you. Can you elaborate on the raids themselves? Are these masks just sitting in a warehouse? How many people have been arrested and charged? And exactly how was the investigation instigated? Did 3M raise this, or was this something you guys were seeing being reported directly to DHS?
So we don't comment on an open investigation. I mean, we will say in this particular instance, we were sort of given a heads up by 3M, and we sort of ran down and tracked that to conclusion. But our work is still underway. As we mentioned, we've been investigating, or this stolen promise has been ongoing since April. So our work continues. We don't want to sort of provide any information in this forum that could jeopardize ongoing investigations.
How about, can you say how many people have been arrested or charged?
Do you guys have that information, Andy?
So, as Mr. Johnson reiterated, they're ongoing investigations. We are working with the Department of Justice. So at this time, HSI is the criminal investigative agency. We're providing our findings to the Department of Justice, and they'll make a determination on the prosecution of the investigations.
Because I'm pool for this, go ahead. I have the other reporters are sending me questions, so I have several. How has the fraud related to COVID-19 changed through the pandemic? Is masks just the latest? Are there other things beyond tests, and are you worried about fraudulent vaccines, stuff like that?
Yes, it runs the gamut. It's everything from the CARES Act funding to tests to masks. You know, I think the entire spectrum. PJ, you want to add?
Thank you. We've seen the entire spectrum. It started off with in April of 2020 with targeting the fraudsters as it relates to the trade, so the trade and the finance with the financial schemes, and then the people trying to prey on individuals, and we've seen that morphed into like now fraudulent vaccines. So any avenue where the criminal enterprises can basically see an entree to either make some money or defraud some individuals is where we're seeing it. So it's across the programmatic spectrum. We're seeing this across all of our trade programmatic areas, in our illicit finance areas, across the spectrum of our enforcement activity.
I think it's also, if I may, it's also important to underscore the fact that there are trusted partners, bless you, there are trusted partners that distribute vaccines. There are trusted partners that manufacture and distribute legitimate masks, and we need to protect ourselves. It has been frequently articulated. This is the best way to beat the pandemic. Wear a mask, distance socially, get vaccinated. Obviously, I think everyone appreciates the all-of-government leadership that the President has demonstrated in terms of the vaccination effort and the extraordinary ambitions that he's articulated. We must take the precautionary measures that are incumbent upon us to take to beat this pandemic and put it behind us. But at the very same time, we have to be wary of illegitimate sources and illegitimate efforts.
I have a question that was emailed to us from Colleen Long with the Associated Press. She asks, can you be more specific about the states where the fraud took place, and can we expect criminal charges?
Well, unfortunately, can't comment on open and ongoing and criminal investigations, but I can say that there are multiple states, and yes, criminal charges are forthcoming.
Maybe you have time for one more question?
Sure. Can I ask about the weather in the South? How has the cold weather over the last week and moving forward affected FEMA's ability to get vaccines into people's hands or into arms, and other problems this weather is causing for the agency?
Well, we of course know of the common consequences of severe weather. We have people that are stranded. We have tragically a number of deaths. We have facilities closed, including, to your very salient question, we have vaccination centers that are not in operation right now by reason of the weather, the extreme weather. So it runs the entire gamut of ordinary life and emergency life in response to the pandemic. It's a very severe consequence, and that's why I thought it appropriate to begin my remarks with both our expression of thoughts and prayers for the victims of the extreme weather, and also the cautionary note to take the care that is needed to protect oneself and one's loved ones. So thanks for it. You have a follow-up? And then
Is there a threat that some vaccines may go unused or spoil?
I really don't have that granularity of information. We're taking all steps, as well as I'm quite confident our state and local partners are taking all steps to protect vaccines and their utility, especially in this acute environment. So thank you all very much, and again, my appreciation to the men and women of Homeland Security Investigations and our partners who made this possible. Thank you.